Hi, welcome back to the Space News Leading Women series. I'm Debra Werner, Silicon Valley correspondent, and today I'm delighted to be speaking with Magnestar CEO Jacqueline Good. Hi, Jacqueline.
Hi, Deborah. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you today?
Doing great. Very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. Would you tell us a little bit about Magnestar?
Absolutely. So we started Magnestar in December 2021, about 2.5 years ago now. And we focus on building the company around spectrum technology. So we recognize that with a large number of new entrants coming into the market, more complex space systems, satellite systems, that the overall noise floor between Earth and space was set to dramatically increase. And signal connectivity is really one of the most critical elements of leveraging space technology. We understood that in order to have clear pathways of communication, that there needed to be massive improvements within the spectrum technology, within spectrum simulation technology, as well as in coordination of spectrum technology within the ecosystem. So we set out to build that. We had this hypothesis about 2 years ago that should we start then, we would likely be leaders in this space sort of 2, 3, 5 years out. And that's what we've brought to fruition. So over the last 2.5 years, we have raised capital, we have grown the team, we brought this technology to the forefront. And now it's being accepted by some of the largest players in the ecosystem to simulate spectrum usage and coordinate spectrum technology at a more efficient rate. And we're incredibly excited to be solving one of the larger pain points within the space sector today, around improving spectrum availability and communications between Earth and space.
Great. Your backstory is interesting. You worked in data analytics with banks, manufacturing, retail. What made you found a space company?
Yes, I actually get this question. I get this question quite often. Like, how did you get here? Like, it's very, it's very not the most direct path that I think most founders take. I have a very big passion for space. In my last job, when I was at OMERS, the pension fund, it's about $124 billion fund, and I was leading the data strategy and data infrastructure for the total fund level. And when I was there, we were building out data products for the investors and whatnot. But I was really finding myself wanting to do something different. And I had worked, as you mentioned, in sort of a variety of sectors at that point. Formerly, I was with a company called Tibco Software as well, based in Palo Alto, where they build data infrastructure systems that connects. I worked with all 5 banks when I was there, 4 of the pension funds, multiple high-tech manufacturers, retailers, really across the board. Within solution engineering and building out solutions for these companies using the proprietary technology. And I think I just realized, and one thing that my mom had always told me actually was that whenever I was lost, to look to space. And I found myself, in a really successful position at this pension fund, and yet I was very unhappy, and I had to figure out a way to move forward. And I just started gearing all my hobbies and all my interests towards space. I started listening to space podcasts and started to talk to everybody who worked in space. And they all told me that in order to make that shift from deep data technology to space technology, to go to the International Space University. So I applied, I received funding from the European Space Agency, and then I went and completed their summer program in 2021. And then coming out of that, it was really, how do I focus on, again, applying my skill set within data infrastructure, data science to a space problem. And from there, that's how we found the spectrum issues. We interviewed, I think, about 600 people within a few months that fall. And overwhelmingly, it was just everyone talking to me about signal interference, the coordination process being an immensely painful process, and post-coordination monitoring. I think that for a long time, I knew that I wanted to build a company, basically since undergrad. And so it was just a matter of building up the skill set that I did earlier on in my career and then applying it to a sector that I was really excited about and really excited to build within. And that has gone well. And we've proven successful within that so far.
And I feel like the spectrum picture has gotten even infinitely more complicated since 2021.
Oh, most definitely. It's just like the number of new systems being developed. We were at the World Radio Conference. I'm a delegate in Canada, Canadian delegate to the International Telecommunications Union under the United Nations. And when we had the World Radio Conference this past December, it was fascinating to me that so many of the even like geopolitical issues that are being discussed at a world stage are making their way into spectrum regulations. And that was very surprising to me. But fortunately, like as I mentioned, we've really built the team, built out our advisory committee with the best of the best when it comes to spectrum technology and spectrum regulation work. And because of that, we've built out our technology that's now been validated, and we're able to run these spectrum simulations to assess how multiple systems, multiple constellations will affect each other from a radio frequency perspective, to ensure that though there are hundreds, if not soon to be thousands upon thousands of new satellites going into space, that these systems will be able to coexist and operate cohesively together to ensure that all the services that are being provided from space are consistent.
So what's Magnestar's role? What are the opportunities and the challenges you see for your company?
I think that the opportunities that we see, we're the first to automate portions of the coordination process. So for background context, whenever in specific countries, when operators are looking to operate in that country or provide service to that country, they have to coordinate with all the other players, all the other space operators or operators in general that are existing in that country. And so it can be quite a lengthy process, as well as just to get the spectrum rights in general. And then once you go through the process of obtaining the right to operate in that country, you then have to protect your spectrum rights and make sure that new folks coming into that country are not going to interfere with you. And so it's quite a lengthy process. And when we went into the diagnostics of it, much of it is done right now by like manual calculations, folks calculating things by hand, writing letters back and forth to each other. One of my amazing advisors, Patricia Cooper, has more or less coined the term smart engineers doing dumb things, like writing dumb letters, because they just waste so much time doing this sort of back and forth work. And so we recognized that was really a prime opportunity for technology to improve the way that things are being done today, increase traceability, increase the consistency in terms of how it's being done across the board, and then overall try and work towards helping the ITU as well have better transparency and tracking capabilities to ensure that these systems that they have put in place and that they've recommended be used are being used accordingly. So with that, within our technology suite, we basically took the simulation technology that we put within the middle of the technology. We embed simulation technology within, as we call it, coordination infrastructure. And then we have automated large portions of the business processes on either side of the coordination workflow. And then we aim to have it being used by every space operator and regulator around the world to have cohesion in terms of how space spectrum is being simulated, as well as coordinated amongst players around the world.
And the simulation ensures that when it's rolled out, it works as planned?
And refrains from interfering with others.
Oh, got it. Okay, great. And so what about the challenges ahead?
Absolutely. I think that it's actually very similar to what, oddly enough, what I experienced in banking. Specifically because in banking, you have a lot of these systems that really, in some ways, make the banks work. And then they were built in like the 1960s, and then there's these people systems that are built around them to make it work long term. And though the technology has not adopted to be relevant in today's environment, it would be built very differently today. It has been maintained in such capacity because of because it's how the bank basically works. And so from that perspective, we see something very similar within spectrum, as in, these are the ways that things have always been done, have been done for the past 50 years. And we're coming in and slightly disrupting that by, creating this new technology that will make things function much better, much easier for everyone, much easier for new incumbents coming in, really level the playing field as well for all space operators so that everyone has access to really great space technology. But with that, we do see challenges around, some folks that want to keep things the way they have been for the past 50 years. I think that because we've been so ingrained within the community, from attending every single radio regulations meetings, really embedding ourselves within the delegation. We've been really focused on building this within the community, and those folks who are potentially, a little bit nervous about adopting the new technology, we just made sure that their voice is consistently being heard. The features that they want to have built in the technology are being built in and included in our roadmap. And that way folks feel like they're a part of the build process, and that's how we overcome that challenge.
How does artificial intelligence and machine learning figure into what Magnestar does?
Yes. So within my background, like I have a background in statistics. And so this is, this is what I did for the first 4 or 5 years of my career, which is really exciting just to see how far the work has come in the past few years as well, and how mainstream it's become. I think it's excellent. One thing I would say is that, in building the company and running the business on a day-to-day basis, we use different language models and whatnot for creating and offsetting some of our talent gaps. And so, for instance, with legal work, if I'm drafting agreements, if I'm drafting papers, it actually cuts down massively on our legal costs to leverage these types of platforms, because I can draft documents using things like ChatGPT. I can edit them on my side, and then I send them to my lawyer for review, which cuts down on our legal costs, which is really helpful for new businesses. So that's how we use it in terms of internally within our systems, as well as for code review and different things like that as well. But how we use it within the technology itself is a little bit different. So we have some research and development work that goes on internally as well around sensing spectrum, sort of completing that final loop of sensing spectrum in different environments. And when we're sensing spectrum, it's with the objective of being able to shift spectrum that's being used based on the environment that ship, that space asset, whatever it might be, is in. And so we use artificial intelligence for that to make decisions on which spectrum to use at a given time based on the real-time environment. That's one of the ways that we're seeing it being used within our research and development work. The other way that we're seeing that come to play is also within the coordination process. So there's some aspects that are specifically focused on automation when it comes to the letters and whatnot. And then when it comes to understanding, okay, let's say we run a simulation, it has all different parameters and variables based on that given constellation, and two systems are comparing one another to decipher how they can both operate. Which are the factors, what are the variables that we can adjust slightly and to which degree in order to have those systems cohesively operating? And those are things that we're looking to suggest moving forward of how we can tweak specific systems to get to a point where both systems are operating. As right now, it's operators running 50 to 100 different simulations. Much of that, as I mentioned, is manual calculations. It's a very drawn out process that takes a lot of human power right now to do. But we'd like to get into a space where we're auto-suggesting some of those recommendations that people can decide whether or not they want to move forward with.
Great. Does being based in Canada offer any unique opportunities for Magnestar?
I think it does, from the perspective of, because we are rolling this out to a global ecosystem, we're not bound by ITAR as we would in the United States. And so from that perspective, we can roll out the technology into different markets at a much faster rate because we don't have that added complexity. There's also different elements around like tax refunds and stuff that are quite strong in Canada. So we appreciate those. That helps fuel some of our business. I would also say that because the Canadian space ecosystem is a smaller ecosystem, we all know each other very well, and we can depend on and work with each other really cohesively as well. And so being a part of that slightly smaller ecosystem gives us a foothold to build off of.
How about for recruiting and retaining talent? Does that present any challenges or opportunities?
Yes, I would say because we are based in Canada as well, we've had roughly like 2,000 people apply to work at the company now. We've had a very large number of folks because we're there's less space companies in Canada, and folks have a harder time working in other regions, right? And so we have a lot of folks that want to work in space in Canada, which is very exciting for us. I would say around spectrum talent, it's a little bit more challenging to find. But that's part of the reason why we're building the technology as well, is that we hear within the spectrum community that finding expertise within spectrum, finding folks who know how to do this work and how to coordinate spectrum, it is a very unique skill set. And so from that perspective, us building the tool does augment staff. It increases the existing capabilities of folks who can do this today. And we built the technology to the point that historically, some of the simulation technology has had to be run by like PhD level individuals. And we built the technology so that it can really be used by anybody. And so we're making it more accessible to more folks, and sort of easing that labor shortage or the labor shortage that's being experienced within the spectrum community today. And then we recruit internally as much as we can, but we do feel some of the strains that the rest of the ecosystem is feeling, definitely.
Do you have advice for people entering the field who may not fit? Some people have a stereotype of white male aerospace engineer being the person working in space. Do you have advice for people either who don't fit that stereotype or who come to it later the way you did, sort of in your career as opposed to at the very beginning?
That question reminds me actually very heavily of a conversation I had with my dad very early on in my career, where when I was working that first job in Palo Alto, for the Palo Alto based company. I had a conversation with him once and we were driving, and I was like, Dad, I am the only lady on my team. I think I'm I'm like one of three ladies in this position in North America. It's just a very, very male dominated field, working in data infrastructure. And his immediate response, which was very surprising, was like, what an opportunity, Jacqueline. Like, you get to go and really stand out and lean into that advantage, and you have the opportunity to take on these very roles, and like, because you're one of the few, people will probably be more likely to help you succeed. And I think that my advice to anybody coming in would just be to lean into the advantages that you have. I think that so often folks, we can get bogged down in terms of like the unfairness that's experienced, or different things that are experienced by different demographics. But from my standpoint, it's really lean into the advantages that you do have, make use of them as much as you possibly can, and always, like, this sounds very cheesy, but always be kind to everybody, because people end up in different places. And I think that especially in the space sector, this is the most optimistic sector I've ever worked in. Everyone is really excited about the future and what potentially could be possible, and understands the criticality of the work that we do. And so from that standpoint, it's like, always be kind to everyone, because people can end up in different places that you don't expect, and you never know when someone's actually going to help you out. And no matter their race or gender or age, whatever that might be, just always be kind. Because I think that does come back and help you in the end.
You've covered my questions. Was there anything else you wanted to say?
I think from my side, the only other thing I would add is that we are actively looking for partners right now. So we're actively looking for folks to partner and scaling up this technology with us. We have a really sort of large ecosystem that we can now build into. We've established very strong relationships with operators and regulators, and we're looking to scale this technology out to a much larger ecosystem as we move forward. And we're actively looking for partners and folks to come build this with us. And that would be the leading sort of message that I want to leave behind, is if any folks are interested in building this technology with us, or helping us out as we deliver this modernized space spectrum simulation and coordination technology to the ecosystem, that we're all for that, and eager to partner with others.
Great. It's been a pleasure talking with you as always.
Thank you. You as well, Deborah. Great to see you.
Great to see you.